Is learning music theory a waste of time? The answer is, it depends, because it might be yes or no, and it depends on a couple of things. The first one is, what is your goal with music? What are you trying to accomplish? And also, two, how are you learning theory? On the question of why you might want to learn theory in the first place, I think it really only makes sense if you want to know how music works. For example, I've gotten a lot of comments on videos from people saying that theory isn't necessary, just like skip it, pick up an instrument, and play. Like all they want to do is play Stairway to Heaven, which is fair, honestly. If you only want to play other people's stuff and have no interest in, at least eventually, creating your own art, then frankly, theory might not be worth your time. But if you do want to write your own songs, or if you're just curious to know how music is composed, which is really cool actually, then theory is totally worth your time and essential. So the value of theory depends on where your interests are, but the question of whether it's worth it also depends on how you're trying to learn theory. Now, I know this might ruffle some feathers, but if your approach is to study traditional notation or tablature, I'm actually not sure it's really worth it, and here's why. Because these two common methods distort the underlying patterns of theory so much that it takes much longer to understand music theory using these methods. And by longer, I mean months, years, or even decades. And since life is short, investing your valuable time into these things might not be worth it. In fact, they're not even optimized for learning theory, they're better suited to master performance. So the ROI is pretty low. Learning theory using notation is really inefficient, like getting your daily iron levels from Twinkies. I can get 6% from this 2-pack, so if I ate enough, if I consumed enough, I could get enough iron, but it's a literal shitload and I'm gonna get bloated, so not the way to do it. But if you study the actual direct patterns of music, like scales and modes and chords and progressions, you can cut to the chase and learn theory really quickly so you can apply it in your own songwriting in days or weeks, not decades. So if you have a use for theory, like songwriting, and you can learn it quickly, then it's definitely worth your time, and it's worth it to learn sooner than later, which reminds me of a quote attributed to Abraham Lincoln that goes, "If I had 5 minutes to chop down a tree, then I'd spend the first 3 sharpening the axe." And what he meant was, don't just wing it through trial and error, plan ahead and do things in the right order. In other words, take the time to learn theory, really learn music theory, and it will pay off.